Happy 2026 and welcome to the first Silmarillion film project episode of the new year. Just want to share with everyone a reminder, don't forget who is the real reason for the season.
That's right. Dave's got a shirt.
Yeah, I've got a shirt now. I'm spreading the word to the folks in Southern California.
Right. Confusing people all over Southern California about how Sauron is the reason for the season.
Yep. Starting with my own
Southern
family.
California and Lynchburg, Virginia.
Yes.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's how you start a movement.
Two places that could not be more similar.
I was going to say
right.
that really it's pretty much preaching to the choir in both places, I think. But
I also have this thing. I also have a mug.
There you go.
So welcome everyone. We're steaming ahead on season 8. We're doing Tuor's story today, and we have a full house. In addition to the Tolkien professor Corey Olson, we also have Nick, we have Marie, and Ilana is joining us today. So big day, exciting.
That's right.
Great way to kick off the new year.
Got our full writers room and Dave and everybody. So here we are. So we're continuing to do the big picture planning for the season, working out the larger narrative. There's many details we're still going to need to work out later as we go. But we've been focusing primarily on Turin's story because Turin's story is kind of going to dominate in season 8. Tuor's story, like the heart of Tuor's story, like the going to Gondolin part of Tuor's story, isn't really going to come in until next season. So we're kind of setting up Tuor and then and focusing on Turin, which is why we began discussing Turin. But now we want to shift to Tuor and how we want to handle, especially again, this early part of his story that we're going to be integrating into season 8. First, quick announcement. I have 2 moot-related announcements today. One is that it is January now, which means it is almost Osmoot time. So I am less than a week away from departure for Australia. We will be, so we're going to be January 24th through 26th. And just in case you're checking your calendar and wondering if that's a mistake, it is not a mistake. Saturday, Sunday, Monday this is a 3-day event on Saturday, Sunday, Monday instead of Friday, Saturday, Sunday, as most of our 3-day events are, because Monday is a national holiday in Australia. So we're availing ourselves of the local holiday to do the event on Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So it's a little offset from where one might normally expect a 3-day event and how we've done Osmoot in the past. But so that's next week is Osmoot. And I strongly encourage folks who can't make it down to Canberra, Australia, to register remotely to join us. You can still join us remotely. And if for some strange reason you find yourself wanting to sleep during some of the events because they may or may not be perfectly attuned to your local time zone, you can, of course, get recordings if you register to attend remotely. So at least remote attendance at Osmoot, strongly recommended. And Ilana, I find the topic for this year, celebration, ceremony, and courtship, a really interesting one. Like that's a fascinating topic in Tolkien, and a very unusual one. I'm excited to talk about that.
I'm so sure.
We want to demonstrate that it doesn't always end in tears.
Right. Sometimes, but not always, ending in tears. Yeah, exactly.
I really wonder what could possibly have inspired the thinking about that sort of thing.
Well, especially like courtship and ceremonies.
Yes.
Something that's been perhaps on Alana's mind a little bit as we've been.
I had nothing to do with the thing.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. Seriously.
There we go.
But I was delighted.
Right. Happy coincidence.
Yes.
Just as everybody assumed that I set the music of words subject last year, and I'm like, no, I was just delighted. That's what we were talking about. Anyway, yeah. So Osmoot is coming up very soon. That is the next moot and the first moot of our our spring, the first half of 2026 moot season, which is a busy moot season, as you can see. We have 5 moots scheduled in the next 5 months. And then Myth Moot thereafter. And it is Myth Moot, which is the subject of my second announcement, because this is going to be pretty much my last broadcast in the month of January on account of going down to Australia. And at the end of January, January 31st, is the last day to get early bird registration pricing for Myth Moot. We actually have early bird registration pricing for Myth Moot this year, which is exciting. And so you can register for Myth Moot. You can get early bird pricing up through the end of January. And remember that this year you're paying for your lodging, you're reserving and paying for your lodging and your registration in the same place on BlackBerry, but you don't have to do them at the same time. So if you want to split up the cost a little bit, you can register now, and then you can do your lodging in a couple months. The early bird pricing applies only to the registration because we don't have control over the price of the lodging. That was, we're just passing that along from the National Conference Center. So anyway, I would I encourage you to look into that and take advantage of the early bird pricing for Myth Moot this year. So excited about Myth Moot, and so glad we could reduce prices for Myth Moot this year like we did. It's much cheaper to attend than it was last year, which is a delightful thing to be able to say. I'm so happy to be able to say that. All right, let us get into SilmFilm stuff. So first, we have a review of the season structure that we were kind of working through last time, right? So this is the, and we tend to think about, beginning of the season, the end of the season, and the midpoint of the season. We often have a sort of a critical point or a turning point, which doesn't have to be the exact center necessarily of the season, but what's the kind of central point? And the main question that we had was that we were working on last time, as I recall, and of course my recall is rarely excellent, is we were talking about endpoint specifically, and thinking we were toying with the question. Initially, a while back, we were thinking the fall of Nargothrond, like Turin setting out to head back north to Dor Loman and not rescue Finduilas, right, was the moment at which we were going to end. We're going to roll credits on episode 13 in season 8. Last time I was suggesting that maybe we consider moving that moving that earlier, and in fact have his arrival at Nargothrond be the end of season 8 instead of his departure from Nargothrond in season 8. One of the advantages that this has is it enables us to put the time in which he is at Nargothrond, in which nothing much is happening, during the break between seasons, basically. So we bring him into Nargothrond, and we don't have to show like the process of Finduilas falling in love with him. We don't have to show the process of him working his way into the councils of Orodreth. We don't have to show the the choice to build the bridge and all that kind of thing. We can just kind of come back and start season 9 with Turin situated in Nargothrond, right? With everything, his political clout, his military reputation, his civic engineering projects, and his elf girl crush, all in place already at the beginning of season 9, so that we can show the progress that has happened there and have some dramatic moments. Like we could begin, for instance, with the visit of Gelmir and Arminas, or not Gelmir. No, we changed the other Gelmir. We're keeping this Gelmir, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Because Gelmir and Arminas is a pair where they have different sounding names. So it's like, awesome. Let's keep that pair together.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
We renamed other Gelmir Guilin.
Yeah, Guilin, right.
Which is his father's name. We just never named his father and gave him,
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yep. No, that's a good conservation of names right there. Okay, so Anyway, so like again, like so that incident, we would have ways of sort of showing the drama that is occurring at Nargothrond, but not have to kind of set all of that stuff up or do that kind of a jump within like somewhere between episode 11 and episode 13, of season 8. And it also, this gives us more time to be able to make more out of the early Turin story. Okay, so I had a funny experience today. So I am in my Tolkien rereading cycle. I've been rereading the Silmarillion again for like the last few weeks, just like a bit a day. And I just actually got up to the Turin story this morning. And so this morning, I'm listening to the Turin Turambar story, right? And I just laughed. I started laughing, which I don't usually do reading the Turin Turambar story, but I started laughing when I was thinking about SilmFilm because I noticed, of course, I'm listening to it on my phone, and I noticed that within the published Silmarillion narrative, the point at which Turin leaves Doriath comes less than 10% of the way through the narrative. Like the entirety of the Dorloman story and the going to Doriath story and what happens in Doriath and the confrontation with Cyros and the miscarriage of justice or whatever and his departure, all of that is less than 10% of the narrative in the published Silmarillion. Now, that, of course, is not some kind of mandate of what the proportion should be, as, of course, the published Silmarillion version of the Turin Turambar story is incredibly spare about especially the Dorloman part of the story, right? I mean, it covers the Dorloman segment in like 4 paragraphs or something. I mean, it's really, really short.
This is definitely a part of the story where we are not holding ourselves to publish Silmarillion only.
For sure.
Because Tolkien wrote so much
great deal
about
more, yeah.
Turin's story.
Yeah.
So anything we like from the rest of that material, we should totally incorporate into our version of this.
Exactly.
The other thing that the Silmarillion and the Children of Hurin story doesn't ever make explicit is that Tuor is co-present for some of that time in
Right.
Dorloman.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So,
no, it's...
So he's there, he's got his story, that's not part of the Turin story at all.
Yeah.
That's going on in Dorloman as well.
Yeah. Yeah. As I say, I don't bring this up to say like we need to be thinking. I just that's why it made me laugh because I was like, wow, that is even shorter than I remembered. I mean, I thought it was pretty short, but I would never have guessed if somebody had asked me to name like a percentage. I would never have guessed that short. It is crazy fast how quickly he goes through that stuff in the published text.
Right.
Yeah. Cyclops, the Silmarillion mentions Lilith, but again, she's born and dies in a paragraph, basically. I mean, it's very, very brief, extremely brief.
Does it name her?
I'm not sure it does name her, does it? I'm trying to remember.
I feel like it does.
I think it's like a sentence.
It probably does. I just...
Because the whole point is Lilith means laughter and
right.
Nienor means mourning. So, like, I feel like we get both of
for
those.
the setup.
David Michael Roberts pulled the quote, so...
Okay, there we go.
Perfect.
A daughter they had also who was called Lilith, which is laughter, and she was beloved by Turin, her brother. But when she was 3 years old, there came a pestilence to Hithlum. Boom. There's the story.
She was born. She has a name.
She has a name. She dies tragically.
Yeah.
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 But I don't think Nellis isn't in there, right?
No, Nellis is not in there at all.
Version. Right.
Yeah.
So, like, we knew we always wanted to include her because that's such a perfect opportunity to show that elves and humans grow up at different rates.
Yeah.
Because when they meet and become friends, they're both equally children.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Turin grows up and becomes a young man, or a teenager at least.
Yes.
And Nellis is still a child.
Right.
She's still a child at that part of the story. So it to me, that's like the perfect chance to do that. We were always going to do that.
It is really cool. Like when one thinks about human elf relationships, one tends to think in the Andreth Ignor direction, right? Like two adults in their young prime, and then the human becomes elderly while the elf still remains in their young prime, right? Like that's the normal, like when we think about the difference in aging, that's the scenario that we usually think of. That scenario is so interesting and so cool, you know, like two children and then one becomes an adult and the other is still a child is a really, it's the same problem, right? But it's a different angle on that problem.
It's a unique, it's a unique piece of it. So I always definitely wanted it for that reason, if nothing else. And also, she's kind of like the one positive relationship Turin ever had.
Right. Well, Beleg, like, but yeah.
Well, Beleg's positive, but he causes Beleg's death. As far as we know,
he
Turin
doesn't
never
kill Nellis.
Did anything that kills Nellis.
Nellis. So Nellis should have the like "I survived Turin," you know, T-shirt, right? Basically, yeah.
Because she never leaves Doria.
She never leaves
presumably
Doria.
Is protected by the girdle. Like that's why. But
right.
But still, like it's the outlier.
It's an accomplishment. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Agreed. Yeah. No, I agree. That's going to be fun. So we totally want to do that, and we totally want to do. Labadal is not in the published Silmarillion either. Like not even a singular reference of his whole relationship with Labadal, which is just a really wonderful sort of illumination of Turin's early life. And so yeah, no, there's no apologies for going back and adding in all of those other things that Tolkien wrote about that stuff. But yeah,
I'd also like to take some time to like reintegrate some Wanderings of Hurin stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So possibly even before he meets Morwen, because that feels like that story kind of ends there. And while the Wanderings of Hurin continues, it would be nice to kind of like rearrange that timeline so more of that stuff happens to him while he's trying to figure out what happened.
Yeah. So I have a question about that.
Yeah.
Do you guys think it's safe to save? Because we do need to have that discussion, right? We need to discuss what exactly do we want to include, like how do we want to include the Wanderings of Hurin? How do we want that plot to work? And how do we want it to integrate, you know, in what ways might we want to monkey with that timeline in order to integrate that story more fully as we go through? My suspicion is that we can punt that conversation to season 9. Do you think that's correct?
Yeah.
Because there's no reason to leave season. No. Yeah, because
I agree.
He's in captivity all the way through
season 9.
Well, the point is we would be choosing to release him from captivity a little earlier to incorporate some of these things, probably.
Yeah.
But the question is how much earlier, and I don't think this season levels of early.
Oh no, sure.
Right. Yeah. So it's a season 9 question.
It's a season 9 question.
Oh, we are. Yeah. I don't know why I thought from my brain decided we were still in season 7.
It happens to me quite a bit still. Yeah.
We're in season 8 now.
Yeah. Season 8. Okay.
Sorry.
So another
question.
Yes.
Another advantage of the having Turin arrive in Nargothrond is that we have room to breathe with the whole Outlaws episode as well. Yeah.
Building up his relationship with the Outlaws and more about the relationship between the Outlaws and the Woodmen who are not Outlaws. Yeah. But again, because we want to be setting up for the people that Hurin's going to be interacting with during his wanderings, exactly. Right?
Yeah. But I think 13 episodes would give us substantial enough time, even if we didn't save the return, the end of the Nargothrond saga. Even if we ended it in this season, we'd still have plenty of time, I
think so. But if I'm thinking that the earliest possible moment, the moment earlier than which we cannot make Hurin's release is Turin's return to Dorloman. Like that has to have happened before Hurin gets there. Right. So unless we very significantly prolong the time between when Hurin gets released and when he arrives in Dorloman, and I don't see what else we have for him to do other than yell at the mountains, right? Yeah. Which shouldn't take him too long. But anyway, yeah. So I mean, obviously he can't come to Dorloman before Turin gets there. So and that's
Right.
that's as you say, Nick. Even if the whole Nargothrond episode or incident we're in this season, it still would be a season 9 question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because of when Turin gets to Dorloman, that's when he slays Brodda, and so things have changed in Dorloman by the time Hurin gets there from the status quo.
Yes.
Post
Correct.
Nirnaeth.
Yeah.
And
as well.
part of Hurin's story, especially in this season, is that he's trapped and imprisoned
Yes.
and can't do anything about what he knows.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that type of story, you wouldn't feel the frustration if we only visited Angband once to see him in captivity. So we would need to check in with him at least a couple of times before
for sure.
Morgoth
I was going to say,
releases him.
do we want to include a bunch of Hurin reaction shots when things happen in the main storyline?
Not a bunch. I mean, if you do something 3 times in a television show, you have done it a lot, right?
Right.
So what I was suggesting is that if we imprison him, sit down on your chair, look out, and then the next thing we see is, okay, so you can go now. That would ruin the story, I feel.
Right.
But if we've checked in with Morgoth gloating about what he's about to do to ruin Hurin's family, and Hurin is trapped and can't do anything at a later time, that covers
Is
it.
sufficient.
And then we would go back and see Morgoth going, all right, you can go now.
Right. And so
I've done my worst.
if we do check in on a couple of occasions, like 1 to 3, one or two occasions,
Right.
in a moment when Turin makes a particularly disastrous choice, say, or when something happens that Morgoth can twist into looking really bad, right?
Right.
Or for example, when say Morwen and Nienor are able to leave Dorloman, and Hurin might look a little relieved, but like scared at the same time, this shouldn't be going so well given what.
Right. Well, I wonder though. I mean, it would be fun
That's
to
next
show.
season.
It would be fun to show Morgoth actively twisting things, so that we can what would be really cool if we could accomplish it is us showing Hurin reacting to things, but what he saw is not the same thing the viewers just saw completely.
Right.
Right. Like not a totally different. He's not just watching like a
Just from a
fantasy
different
projection.
angle.
From a different angle. Right. So that he's
like what-
point of view.
Yes.
Well, like what Sauron was doing to Denethor.
Yes.
In
Exactly.
the Palantir. Yeah.
Exactly. So that the things that are hopeful are concealed from him, and the things that either are disastrous or look like they're going to be disastrous, his attention is drawn to. Yeah, it would be maximally cool if Morgoth were not actually lying at any point.
Yes.
I think the biggest
That's
opportunity
why Vecna always tells the truth.
to
Yes.
have Morgoth not lie and have Hurin still get the wrong viewpoint is with Morwen and Nienor entering Doriath and leaving Doriath, because Morgoth can portray that as that they were rejected and turned away from Doriath,
Right.
and that
Look at them being
They
cast
were-
out. Yeah.
they were being cast out and abandoned in the wilderness,
Yes.
and that's what it looks like is happening. They sure do look like they're abandoned out in the wilderness,
Right.
but they weren't kicked out, and that's
Yeah.
the part where Morgoth could let Hurin draw his own conclusions. So
Right.
if we wanted to do something similar with Turin as an outlaw and make it look like he's been cast out from Doriath,
All-
despite the fact that Belek comes back multiple times to be like, dude, we pardoned you, come back.
Right. I mean, all he'd
That's
have
the
to
part
do.
that Hurin doesn't know. Yeah.
All he'd have to do is show him some particular scenes of Turin's men torturing Beleg, right? And then it looks pretty bad, right? Like, look at what your son's up to. Look at,
Killing Beleg.
well, yeah. Morgoth could. It's not hard to build a really bad looking montage of Turin's life, right?
Here is the
Fair.
curated
Right.
version.
The Morgoth curated version of Turin's misdeeds. Yes.
Don't want that.
Yep. Yes. And David Michael, I agree. Morgoth presumably can't grant Hurin's vision of Hurin vision of what happened inside the girdle. Yes, I think that's clearly a rule that we have to stick to.
Right. So the unknown now can be filled in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
So likewise, he doesn't know the extent to which Turin has been, in fact, fostered. Not
Yes.
just taken in,
Yeah.
but fostered.
Yeah, yeah. He would have no
Right, you
idea of
can't
how
know
he
that.
was treated in Doriath. Yeah.
Only that he fled from there.
Only that he fled
Yeah.
from there, and well, he wouldn't know anything about like accusations, but maybe you could twist the meeting between him and Beleg into looking like Beleg coming to haul him back, to
Face justice.
right,
Yeah,
to face
because-
the kangaroo court, right? To
Right.
face injustice, basically. And then Turin
It would not be
Turin
difficult
refusing.
for us. It would not be difficult for us to engineer dialogue from Beleg that could easily be just like
Yes.
cherry picked for
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
Right. And
yeah.
that would have to be infuriating for the viewer to see.
Yes.
Like, we've seen the scenes play out, and we know that Hurin's getting a badly curated version of
Yes.
it. Like, that's not what they did.
Yes.
But it's still.
But it is what
actual
but it is what
dialogue.
happened. Like it's
Yeah.
all exactly what
so
happened.
that's a definite this season
Yes.
event.
Yeah.
Yes.
Those
Morwen and Nienor probably don't get to Dorloman until next season.
Right.
To Doriath until next season.
Right.
Because
At most,
Turin
they
has-
leave at the end of the season.
if we're going to keep the fact that it's Turin in Nargothrond that enables them to get
Well-
it out, then
Oh yeah, no, we totally,
Well-
yeah. Because
Yeah.
them departing Dorloman, right, can easily be made to look like, and here is your wife and daughter being, leaving, in fear and want and terror, going out into the wild by themselves and unprotected. Like, that's that Morgothian version of the script writes itself, right? As far as making their departure look horrible.
if the period in which Turin establishes himself in Nargothrond is something that we're going to kind of infer from the season break, would Morwen and Nienor leaving Dorloman and getting to Doriath also be in that period?
The problem with that is that Morwen's decision to leave Dorloman is probably going to be something we want to see.
Yeah.
So if we do it at the very end of this season or the very
I'm
beginning
thinking
of
the
next
end of this
season,
season.
right? So
but it
That
has
makes
to be
more
safe
sense.
enough. There has to be enough.
Right.
Like
But-
something needs to happen to make it safe for them to cross the mountains.
I think
Yeah.
we just
Well, Turin.
the bow and helm situation.
I was about to say there's two times
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
Turin is
That's
making
fair.
the land
I
safe.
agree.
If we do want to keep it the Nargothrond one, we can have Turin's arrival in Nargothrond happen early enough in episode 13 that a bit of a time skip and the land is safe, and then we focus in on Morwen and Nienor leaving.
I quite like the bow and helm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
But see, of course, that again is easy to twist. Then then Morgoth, in his version of showing this to Hurin, first shows Morwen and Nienor alone, adrift, friendless, helpless, banished out into the unforgiving wilderness, and then cut to Turin in his stronghold, right? In comfort and ease, surrounded, show him having fun with his men, right? And meanwhile, here's your son lounging, I get it could look pretty bad,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's a scene from K-pop Demon Hunters.
Here you go. Yeah, precisely. Yeah.
Sorry.
So yeah, no, it's easy to kind of patch that together in the way, again, any story, doing an edit of anybody's story to make them look bad and make the situation look terrible, can be accomplished with a little bit of creativity. Doing it to Turin's story is not hard, right? It's really not hard at all. So yeah, I think there's a lot of there's a lot of possibilities there. So okay, so we will think about that. So I think that time, if we do 2 check-ins, with Hurin, like two little glimpses into Hurin vision, like Morgoth vision, right, with Hurin. And we do those at Beleg's conversation with Turin. Beleg trying to haul Turin back to Doriath is one. And then we do the departure of Morwen and Nienor. Both of those would fall within this season. And those would be spaced out pretty well in this season too, because the entirety of the Amon-Ruth story, almost all of the Amon-Ruth story, comes in between them, basically. And it also gives us one that Morwen and Nienor departure could be quite close to the end of the season. So that gives us the opportunity for like a final check-in with Hurin near the end of the season. And then checking in with him when Nienor and Morwen are cast out adrift and thrown to the dragon by Thingol, right at the end, at the end of the, right after the Nargothrond story, gives us a third check-in opportunity with Hurin in the early-ish part of next season, and that could still be. But would he still be there? Well, that's a season 9 question. We don't have to answer that right now.
So I have some questions. One being, and this may have already been answered, do we intend for Turin to generally be the A plot of the episodes of this season?
I think probably most of the time.
Yeah. Okay.
I would think.
Because
There's 1 or 2 episodes where Turin's story is probably not the A plot, but the vast majority of the others, it is.
Okay. Because like what we probably don't want to do is reduce his plot of various episodes to kind of like a data point. Right? So like, for example, the offer of pardon itself, for example, doesn't see, because there's no lead up to that, right? That seems like the beginning of an episode, like the plot point of an episode that that culminates in Beleg joining the Outlaws, for example.
No, there's 2 visits from Beleg to Turin.
Correct. Yes.
In the first one, he offers the pardon and is rejected and leaves. The second time, he comes back with the dragon helm and is like, "See, come back."
Right.
And then Turin convinces him to stay.
Right.
And
so those are
2 separate episodes, and they're not even back to back.
Those are 2 separate events, but they could happen in one episode, right?
They happen in 3. It's 3 episodes. So, the first visit is in the 1 episode.
Okay.
Then Turin meets Meme. And the whole Amon-Rud thing happens. So the second time Beleg comes back to visit, Turin's situation has changed dramatically.
Because he's in Amon-Rud.
Which is why.
Now. Yeah.
So now he can invite Beleg to stay, which is what causes Meme to get upset because, hey, he never invited an elf to live here. And
Yes.
So that is episodes.
That seems like
6.
one story to me, but
it's episodes 7, 8, and 9.
That seems like one story.
I agree that that's a theoretically collapsible set of interactions. Like, we could conceivably have Beleg only come once, because it is.
Well, you could even have him come at the beginning of an episode, have the whole thing with Meme take place as kind of the A plot of that episode, and have him return in the.
I don't think we need to, but let's. So I'm still looking at the overall structure. Then we'll get to the more specific, because we do have. Marie, we did kind of do a little sketch out, didn't we, of like how the Turin stuff could work out?
Yes.
So let's.
It's on a slide.
Yeah, we'll come back to that. I will soon. I will actually advance slides.
Okay, fair enough.
The thing I wanted to do before I did that, though, is look at the overall how Tuor story, our initial concept of how Tuor story was going to fit into this overall structure, right? So if the starting point for Turin is, of course, him being in Dor Loman, and then him fleeing to Doria. Right? The question of him fleeing to Doria. Like, that's the kind of the initial thing is Turin in Doria, and Turin in Dor Loman. And then the midpoint is Turin's encounter with memes. So in the whole Doria thing happens kind of in the middle of the first half of the season. And his setting up at Amon-Ruth is the turning point of the Turin story. So that now the whole bow and helm story, then leading up to the horrible death of Beleg, and then the rescue by Gwyndor and arrival in Doriath, in Nargothrond, then happens in the second half of the season. So if that's the shape of the Turin story, what we were talking about last time for the overall shape of the Tuor story, we start, of course, with his birth. Unlike Turin, we don't have even him born yet. We need to start with his birth and his mother's death, and his fostering. Then the midpoint, we were thinking him becoming a slave, the enslavement of Tuor beginning at around the midpoint. And again, unlike Turin, we're not having Tuor even in every episode, right? There will be a bunch of Tuor-free episodes while he's just growing up. So if basically we are to understand that his early childhood is happening in the first half of the season, and then his later childhood, his teen years, are happening in the later part of the season. So while Turin is in Amon-Ruth, Tuor is enslaved by Lorgan, and then escapes and departs from Dor-Lómin at the end. So we're thinking of ending the season with him departing from Dor-Lómin and setting out on his journey to Nevrast, so that we then can bring him to Nevrast early in season 9, and then get him to Gondolin before the end of the season. How much before, I'm not 100% sure yet, but that's a season 9 question. So that's the overall shape of Tuor's story. And again, not too many events to include, especially if we don't even include really the events of his journey in this season. And I think we've got to have Gelmir and Arminas have to stop in Nargothrond first, or do they go there second?
They're supposed to go to Nargothrond after they've met Tuor up at the Rainbow.
Okay.
Cleft.
So we start with, so we could start the season with him meeting Gelmir and Arminas, but then they've got to hightail it down. Maybe we have him meet Gelmir and Arminas at the end of this season.
At the very least, the audience is going to meet Gelmir and Arminas this season.
No, but
because collide with Tuor, either the very end, the final episode.
We'd have because we want Gelmir and Arminas in Nargothrond in episode 1 of season 9 for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
But I think it's a nice thing to end this season with the sense that at least one of the Valar is paying attention.
Yes, and even if very little's going to happen with Tuor, so to end with hey, something's gonna happen. right.
Well, that was the original, when we were discussing this initially, that was the part of the purpose of having him encounter Olmo at the end of this season, was to demonstrate that actual fact.
Right, exactly. So if we hint at it with Gelmir and Arminas.
Now that we've bumped back Glaurung to season 9, we've also bumped the visit with Olmo to season 9.
Yes. But it does give us a very eventful beginning of season 9 if we've got the meeting with Olmo and the sack of Nargothrond both happening within the first 3 episodes, basically.
I love that parallel.
Yeah.
It's going to be an awesome parallel.
Yes, they were always intended to be parallel.
Yeah. No, it's fun. Yes, and then of course we have the journey and them crossing and Yeah. Okay.
That feels so early in the season to be putting all that stuff though.
Well, I was going to say, this does get us to Gondolin early, because Tuor is going to arrive in Gondolin by necessity because of the crossing point at almost the same time Turin arrives in Dor-Lómin, earlier than he arrives in about the same. I think it would be easier to get to get from where they cross, right? Anyway, it is no better than equidistant, right? So at the same time, Turin is slaying Broda, Tuor is arriving in Gondolin.
We had discussed maybe giving Tuor and Varanwe some adventures in Beleriand
Yeah.
to drag out their arrival to Gondolin a little bit later.
But the
For
distance from the
story
crossing point is like
I know what the distance is, but you know, it's
Things
times are
happen.
weird. Times are weird and things happen. So if we give them a roundabout thing they have to do, detour.
A little Mandalorian and Grogu storyline.
little side quest on the way
Yeah.
to Gondolin.
We had discussed giving them multiple side quests so that they don't get to Gondolin until like the end of the season, even though it's right there the whole time.
Right. They have to get 90% of the way to Gondolin and then take forever to get take 10% of the way.
They have to get together 5 other warriors to help them fight off an Easterling, a group of Easterling raiders.
That's right.
To this little village.
And then they've got to locate 10 different flowers that are,
Yes.
sure, exactly. There are all kinds of things we could do. Yeah.
Whatever they have to do. The point is, Tuor will arrive in Gondolin precisely when we need him to, and it has nothing to
kill
do.
7 bears.
It has nothing to do with the distance between the pools of Ithrin and Gondolin.
I'm sorry, not kill 7 bears. Gather 7 bear skins, which only drop 60% of the time when you kill a bear.
So you've got to kill at least 12 bears in order to get them. Yep. Agreed. Yep. He will arrive in Gondolin just when we want him to. But anyway, that too is a season 9 question. All right, so let's look at the pacing. So here is this slide shows the pacing by episode, not just by the overall plot line, but by different characters' stories. So we've got Turin's story at the top, which is highlighted. And then we've got Tuor underneath, Morwen, Hurin, Círdan, and Doriath, because the sack of Eglorest and Brithambar has to happen pretty early on in this season. And then he's also going to be involved with Varanwe, etc. So that's why he's... And then, as I say, Doriath as well. Okay, so let's start with just a review of the episode-by-episode pacing of the Turin story that we were discussing. So Turin and Dorloman, episode 1. So episode 1 is all in Dorloman, establishing the post-Near-Ninth Dorloman situation, and we're gonna get Morwen and her situation and her desire to protect her her challenges in protecting her children. We're gonna get the Iron story, right, in episode 1-2, I would think.
Sure. I'm trying to imagine a world where that story doesn't end with him setting off for Doriath, though.
Right.
It's the decision. It's Morwen's decision to send him to Doriath that culminates the episode.
Because so episode 2 for the Turin story has him traveling to Doriath, basically.
The idea was that Morwen resists
Sure.
the idea of him leaving because she's not ready to make that.
So it does culminate with that. Okay. All right. And then the following episode is just the plot is just him traveling from one place to another
and arriving in Doriath.
Okay.
We have a lot of work to do in episode 1, establishing the post-Near-Ninth situation,
Sure.
not just in Dorloman. I mean,
but everywhere.
Flash to other parts.
We're also going to get the Hurin defying Morgoth scene in episode 1, so that's going to take some time away from that as well. We're going to get the birth of Tuor and the death of Rion in episode 1.
Right. Yeah.
That's a lot to put in an episode.
So the idea was that the decision for Turin to go to Doriath would be an episode 2 decision, like towards the beginning of the episode. But everything in episode 1 explains why she's going to make that decision.
So episode 2 starts with the decision to send him and ends after with him being accepted in and set upon Thingol's knee and
Episode 2 is one of those episodes that doesn't have to have Turin as the main.
Yes, that's pretty clear.
I would think. Morwen's going to be
there.
the main point of view character, isn't she?
Well,
for episode 1.
Are we still going to do the thing where we
one
never have Turin as the point of view character? I still love that.
I do like that idea.
Let's just see how that goes. So we have Morwen as the point of view character. It depends how well we like
Beleg, I think.
Yeah.
Who doesn't like Beleg? Oh my goodness.
Everyone likes Beleg.
Everyone likes Beleg, and we want to spend as much time as possible with Beleg this season, right? That's going to be a hard parting. And he dies this season, so yes.
He does.
Okay, so 2 is the journey and the welcoming into Doriath, and the attack on Eglarest and Brithambar we were thinking of. So we're gonna be part in Dorloman, part on the road, part in Doriath, and then part. Meanwhile, Círdan's people are getting slaughtered at the Havens. And by the way, the birth of Neonor is happening too. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Birth of Neonor is happening.
So
That's why Morwen can't go.
Right. So the story of episode 2 is basically the attack on Brithambar.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yes, the A plot would probably be the Havens.
Yeah. Because everything else is just stuff that happens, basically.
The Haven stuff could also enable us to because I'm thinking about the Havens, not the ones that are destroyed, but I'm thinking of Balar. I'm thinking of the Isle of Balar and the establishment of the Isle of Balar and the sending of Gil-galad to the Isle of Balar. Do we want to have that be so? Like first the Havens are destroyed and then Balar is established. Like we have them arriving, taking refuge at the Isle of Balar, and some hint of that.
It's plot. It's in episode 5 at the moment.
Oh, so you're pushing that back to
I mean, there's time to establish the
So-
Havens. But
I would think that by the end of episode 2, Círdan and his people are on the Isle of Balar looking
right.
back.
So we
at
do follow
Valyrian.
them and
Yes.
finish them with them on the Isle of Balar. Yeah.
Right. So there is hope that something new is going to happen here. I can't imagine we would have the arrival of people from Nargothrond and Gondolin to the Isle of Balar until later in the season, because news has to travel and everything. But yes, like in the following episodes, wherever it fits, to come back to check in with Círdan, we'll be doing that.
Okay.
I think also because episode 1 is very human focused.
Right.
It's really just the human stories.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I think it's quite good after the Near Ninth for this to be an elf-centric kind of what's the impact post Near Ninth on
Yes.
on the elven areas of power and so on.
And
It
the
looks like
we can
episode
check in
3
on
is that as well.
Yeah.
Well, in a sense, because we're getting to, so that 3 is going to be dominated. So Turin is going to be the A plot of 3. Well, mostly.
How? Because he's just having happy fun times. it
Right,
looks
he's
like.
growing up. So yeah, no, probably not. I'm just that we do want to spend a good deal of time with him and Nellis, but it doesn't certainly have to be the whole episode.
It could either be a B plot or one of those situations where A plot and B plot kind of share equal time.
Well, what would be the question that's being asked by that story?
The Turin Nellis story.
Yeah,
Well, Turin is a human who grew up in
sure.
Right.
Dorloman and just lived through a war where he lost his whole family. And
Okay.
Nellis is an elf living in an idyllic land where nothing bad has ever happened to her because she's a child in Doriath.
Right.
So,
So
it's
is the
one of those-
question,
it's
can
a
these two
culture
people
clash.
get along?
Well,
Is
I
that
think the
what
main
we're-
question,
Or what do they learn from each other? Or what do
Yeah.
they
I
have
think
to
that-
do?
but I think it just in as much as Turin's story is the overall dominant narrative of the season, I think to therefore make it a kind of a Turin-centric question, it would be my question would be something along the lines of, can Turin find peace or happiness after his childhood tragedy, and the tragedy of his land and family?
So the answer would essentially be, he could have.
Yeah, like
Okay.
this episode
Yeah.
would show that being like offered to him, essentially. I would think, that
Because the next step in his story is he grows up to be a teenager, meets Beleg, and is like, "Let's go off onto the marches and fight Morgoth." So that's where his story's headed next. This
Right.
is before that.
right.
Who was Turin before he did that? Because that's what he's going to do the rest of his life, is be a warrior.
This is Turin going through puberty. This episode,
In 3?
basically.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So we've like adolescent Turin is what we're getting in episode 3. Adolescent Turin growing up with Nellis. Actually, I kind of like that, emphasizing Marie coming back to the whole point of the elf child, human child thing. It's almost more poignant if we show Turin like perceptibly on the edge of the rapid changes of adolescence and puberty, right? Like he is still a child, right? You know, but it is, you know, all humans know looking at this boy at that age that he is not going to be just a child for very long, right?
Yeah.
Right.
You know, this is like middle school or Turin, basically,
It's-
within the show.
It
Are you-
seems. I'm sorry.
Are you
go ahead.
familiar with Let the Right One In? It's a story about a young boy, not quite a teenager, or maybe a young teen, I forget, who meets what appears to be a girl his age. But she's not a girl. She's a vampire. And she is traveling with an older man who is supposed to like fetch dead bodies for her or something. I forget the details. And it becomes clear over time that that old man was once a young boy.
Right.
And yeah, so like she's picking up her next partner
She's
to
grooming
go
him.
through life with.
Right.
Yeah, oh, well, for
Right.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's a interesting story. But the idea of people who age differently
Right.
about this age, it's that kind of story.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, and Nellis can look that way. She can also look like a 10-year-old girl, basically. But
Because
yeah.
it would seem to me that what might be interesting about that story is a shift from, in the beginning, him and Nellis are best of friends, but it ends with him slowly being pulled into Beleg's orbit instead, which she finds baffling. Because wouldn't you rather play fairy rings or whatever? Like, wouldn't that be more fun? And he's kind of in a rush to grow up. That would feel to me more.
Well, I would think we would have to interject into the story of Nellis and Turin, some element, some echo of the Hurin and Gondolin situation, right? Like Turin would have this kind of urgency. Like, I can't wait to grow up and be, I'm going to be a warrior just like my dad, and I'm going to like take vengeance on our enemies, and I'm going to, and Nellis is going to like, whoa. Dude, like,
That's not her thing. Yeah.
Not only is fighting not her thing in general, she's certainly not in a rush to go off and accomplish, even any adult things, right? Just the kind of comparative leisure that she has to be a child for longer and pursue childish things. And he would enjoy the childish things, but briefly. Like, he would quickly find, like, okay, it's time to stop. Like, I don't, it's just that, I would think that the human impulse, right? Because it seems to be a fundamental human impulse. Like how little kids are always wanting to be bigger than they are, right? And like, I'm almost 6. I'm practically 8 now, right? After like 2 weeks after their birthday or whatever. Like that whole look how grown up I am now. That whole I think elves don't have that impulse. I think that's a purely human impulse to always wanting to be. Again, it's that kind of like that mortal impatience, right? That just as Hurin and Huor want to take advantage of their primes to actually accomplish something, right, in the fight against Morgoth, so too human children are like, we want to get to a place where we can accomplish something, right? They have that drive.
It's the seeking elsewhither.
Yes, the discontent with the now, right? Yes. It's kind of a shadow of that, right? Yeah. And again, yes, Nellis is like perfect contentment just to be and play and not think about tomorrow and have no desire to be older. I mean, I can imagine a conversation where Turin's like, like, don't you want to be, grown up and be just like, whatever. He can't point to Luthien. Galadriel, right? He's pointing to Galadriel and is like, don't you want to be just like her and do all this? And Nellis being like, no, not yet. Right? Like, I will someday, but not now.
And Turin is absolutely not old enough to be Picard in Star Trek Insurrection when he meets the people who are clearly elves.
Right.
And all this would kind of essentially be the case I would make for Turin ending that story starting to go into his career with Beleg on the marches.
Yeah, so that having the overall arc of the episode
right
start with the two of them contentedly playing as children together and end and kind of the gap between them widen over the course of the episode. That does make sense. It would be hard to make a story out of something more static there, and then it only changes in the next episode. And I will say 3 and 4, as far as the Turin story goes, 3 and 4 are pretty leisurely.
We've got Turgan in episode 3, which is kind of nice because if you're doing the Gondolin parallel with Nellis and Turin,
right, that's true.
You know, there's a bit of, you know, we can do some things maybe with.
Yeah,
with
that's
Turgan.
true. That's true.
Especially if Turgan is essentially responding to lessons that he learned from Hurin.
Yes.
Yeah.
It probably wouldn't be too hard to contrive to give Turgan a speech in which he actively recalls Hurin's words to him, you know, during that episode.
Because no one outside of Gondolin is talking about Gondolin. So,
right. And nobody still alive other than Hurin outside of Gondolin knows anything about that conversation or anything like that. So it's only Turgan who can allude to it. Yeah.
Right.
That is a fun parallel. So that's the other thing that we had going on in 3 is Turgan's decision to send messengers west. So it is possible to have the Gondolin story be the A plot of episode 3. The A or
and
the plot.
The Turin Nellis plot to be kind of like the Data finds his humanity plot of the episode. Yeah.
Yeah. It also it's also good because then we don't have to contrive. If the Turin Nellis relationship in episode 3 were the A plot, we would have to something would have to happen.
Right.
Like we'd need an event to occur.
Yes.
Or else it'd just be boring.
This was my concern when I initially looked at this. I was
like, right. What's gonna happen in episode 3?
Turin, the highlighting of Turin's story, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the A plot.
Right.
Exactly. No. But it's the primary thing that we're following in the season.
But I also, if so far episodes 1, 2, and 3 are what's happened after the near knife. It's not the Turin story.
Right.
And Turin is a child. He's not doing things or making choices.
Sure.
Even the parts of that story are about him, but it's about what happens to him.
Yes.
And what he is made to do more. I mean, so he was never going to be a protagonist of the first 3 episodes.
Right. But having him start to take some agency in episode 3 might be
fine. Because so in the first episode it was all about Morwen and her choices, which involves whether Turin stays in Dorloman or leaves Dorloman.
Right.
Like Turin's not deciding that.
Right.
And then in episode 2 he gets to Doriath. Again, this was not his choice. And then with Nellis we can start seeing him. Who is he, at this point? Episode 4 we really wanted to see him with Beleg fighting on the marches because he's gonna be such a great warrior later on. Like, where did he learn that? And the answer has to be here.
Yes.
Right.
Clearly. No, I think that's great. I really like that. One thing I would point out, which I'm sure Ilana has also noticed, is that in the Morwen story row, we have a long blank spot in the middle here. And I think some...
that was for things we were going to talk about today.
Yeah.
Put in
for
there.
sure.
Yeah. The only thing
there's a lot of stuff we can do with Dorloman and
of course.
And I mean, she's going to be positioned as a sorceress and
yes.
Person to be avoided and so on.
Yeah, the general idea is that Erin is taking her role of advocate for the people. So what's Morwen doing now? She's no longer the Lady of Dorloman the way she was, but she's still there. So she needs some kind of thing to be doing with her life other than just hanging out.
Checking in on Nienor growing up would also be useful and important, I think.
So we know that when Tuor is 16, Nianor's 15, when Tuor's 14, Nianor's 13. So the time periods of at what point does Tuor get lobbed back into the people of Dorloman? How old is Nianor at that time? Like, so we can obviously check in with her, even if they're not going to interact with each other. If we're telling a storyline, some character can interact with another character. We can see both Tuor and Nianor.
Yeah. Having the Easterlings refer to Morwen as the Black Lady,
Right.
might be. I mean, because obviously, Wen doesn't necessarily mean lady, right? But Morwen's dark or black, and having them refer to her that way, if they feel like she's some sort of sorceress.
It is a fun turning of her name. Yeah. Yep.
Especially if she is the elven fair, like these people remember Galadriel,
Yes.
right? And if they're connecting Morwen, the most beautiful of all human women, to Galadriel, that's going to make them think some thoughts for sure.
Yes. Yeah. You're right.
And we can have some. Sorry.
I was going to say, you're right that is absolutely the model that they have for what elf women are like. Yeah. Powerful.
So you have the
powerful,
Lady of
scary
Light.
elf women. Yeah.
The Lady of Light and the Black Lady, I think would be.
That's fun.
An interesting.
That's fun. I like that. I like that.
And we can have conversations between Morwen and Iron as well about things.
Yeah.
Like those are the adult people who can talk to each other.
Yeah.
Which gives us two women talking about politics and situation.
Yep.
As long as they don't mention any man by name, it kind of sort of passes the Bechdel test.
It totally does.
Come on, if Iron and Morwen managing the affairs of the refugee kingdom doesn't pass the Bechdel test, then what on earth does?
Well, unless they start talking about Brada and
I was
Morgan
about to say, most likely Brada would come up in that discussion.
He's a pretty important political concern. I mean, this doesn't have to be a romance
Sure.
conversation, you know. Anyway, not to mention the fact that this is going to get me starting on my pet peeves of why I hate the Bechdel test, which I won't even utter. But
yep, let's stay away from it.
Yeah.
But the also want to for Tuor's story, we want to set up Lorgan in the habit of enslaving in a way that maybe is contrasted with the way Brodder is managing things.
Yes. Yeah, we do need to have.
I've kind of set them up as antagonists.
Yes. Yeah. So if we think about, all right. So we've gotten sort of through. Okay. Well, let's think a little bit more about episode 4 with Turin. So, if at the end of episode 3 it's clear that Turin, either he is going off to Beleg or he is just like, it's clear that that's what he wants and he's dedicating himself to like training to go fight with Beleg or whatever. And leaving childhood pursuits behind, childish pursuits behind. Episode 4, we can have the sort of the arc be his relationship with Beleg, right? Like that can be like Turin meets Beleg and, in this state, right? And Beleg agrees to bring him along and then he goes and then he like fights and does awesome things and like earns Beleg's respect in some method by the end of the arc of episode 4 is that by the end of episode 4 Beleg is like, this guy is fantastic, like I can count on him, he is like my right hand dude. He's only 16 but he's my right hand dude, like this is fantastic. So we have like the bond between Beleg and Turin and established, and Turin's martial prowess established, both there in episode 4. That seems easy enough to do in the scope of one episode. Our very first Beleg POV episode, but not our last, presumably. Okay, so just thinking about that stuff for now. 3 and 4. What do we have going on with Tuor? If Tuor is born in episode 1, and he's going to be given as a toddler, baby.
Right. We need to figure out
We need
what
to figure
Rihan's
out.
story
Yeah.
is, because you can't figure out what Tuor's
We
up
can't.
to
Yeah,
until
we
you
can't.
get
Okay.
that.
Wait.
So
Maybe we should
we
finish going
know.
through Turin's story before we
Okay,
get back to that.
go
Because
ahead.
you're right. We've got a lot that we've got to figure out there before we can even start. I was thinking we could maybe start figuring out where Tuor might be here, but no, we can't. We've really got to figure the early stuff out first. Okay. So let's just go ahead and continue making sure that Turin's story is going to make sense. Episode 5 is his return to Doriath and the quarrel with Cyros, and that's plenty. That's a fine episode right there.
Yeah.
Starting with his return home and the feast at which he throws the cup at Cyros, and ending with his departure after Cyros's death. That's a lot. That's a lot. Okay, so that's an easy episode. 6 is his meetup with the outlaw band, which we're relying heavily on the children of Hurin for that one. So we get the woodman, we get Turin, we get the his forcing his way into the outlaw band. That's enough of a trajectory for him, I would think. Mostly. Lots of details to work out there, but that would seem to work. 7 then would be the arrival, Beleg's arrival, offering his pardon. This is the scene that Morgoth is probably going to misconstrue on Hurin's behalf. And he comes back. The trial is happening in episode 6 while Turin is establishing himself. And so, and Nellis's testimony is happening in that previous episode. So 7, the arc of episode 7 really begins with Beleg asking for permission to go find Turin and deliver his pardon to him, right? In Doriath. And then he finds him and offers it and is refused and returns? Start in Doriath, end in Doriath? Beleg POV?
Basically, yes. If we're doing Beleg's POV, yes. If we're doing the point of view from someone who's with Turin, then Beleg just like appears in the group and leaves the group.
Right. Yes. Okay. And then the meeting with Meme and settling in Amon Ruth. So the whole Meme story and the death of his son and the ransom and the beginning of the establishment of the people. So we begin to see the transformation of the outlaw band. Not the like moral transformation of the outlaw band, but the like the new, much more sort of like basically Turin's going to start to get ideas, more like bigger ideas, establishing himself at Amon Ruth. Nick, you got to run?
I got it.
All right, no worries. Understood.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks for joining us. Okay, and then Beleg's arrival, bringing the dragon helm in episode 9. Right. Okay. This will give us another big Doriath scene as well with the sword, right? We've got Beleg getting Anglachel and setting out after Turin. So we start the story of the sword then. He gets the sword and the dragon helm. 10, I can see a challenge of having much in the way of arc other than Meme's growing resentment. There's not much that changes over the course of episode 10.
10 was one of the episodes where I expected our main A-plot would be in Dorloman.
Right, we shift back to Dorloman and Tuor and Morwen.
Because especially if we're going to use that time, the Land of the Bow and Helm, as the things are safe enough for her to leave, we definitely would want to establish what is her current situation, what's Nianor's current situation.
Yes.
Because that's most like, we know the external things of what changes, but the internal things is how safe is her daughter in Dorloman. And the answer is not very, so probably something happens.
we'll talk about this when we get to Tuor, but these episodes where we're touching back in Dorloman with Tuor and also the earlier ones with Hanile are the kind of what does Tuor know about the world growing up? You know, we need to establish what his worldview is before he grows up.
Yeah.
In the way that we've done with the Turin and Nellis things. So those scenes for Tuor are like us establishing not just his character, but what has been his life experience.
Yes. Okay. Because then the next episodes in the Turin story are pretty action-packed and pretty easy to make episode plots of. The betrayal of Amun-Ruth, its destruction, Turin's capture, everybody killed. There's a lot going on there. Beleg's pursuit in episode 12, culminating in his death. And then Gwyndor leading Turin to the pools of Ivrin and then on to Nargothrond. That all seems to... So pacing-wise, I think it's good. There are a few spots where we're going to need to... I mean, I'm sort of sympathizing. If we needed it, I could easily see Nick's point that the two visits of Beleg to Turin could be conflated if we needed to, but I don't think we need to.
I think part of the whole point of pacing the season out the way we did was to give us more time with the Outlaws.
Right.
Which means we want to see the different seasons of the Outlaws.
We want to see the before and after, yeah.
Right. And if we didn't, and we just wanted to establish that Turin joined some Outlaws, and then the Outlaws got attacked by orcs.
Right.
Fine. But I thought we wanted to see.
No, I think we do, especially not only because it would be great to be able to do kind of fuller justice to the whole Dor Cuathal situation, but also, again, it's set up for the wanderings of Hurin, right? You know, that there will be many people who will remember, who will remember the dragon helm, and then Hurin's going to come through, right?
It also gives, like, there has to be a reason for Beleg to stay the second time. I mean, if we conflate it, then he just stays.
Yes.
Whereas if we don't conflate it, there's a story there.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I understand that you could tell that story by having Beleg show up and Turin says, no, thank you. And then you do the whole meme story. And then at the end, Beleg comes back again and Turin says, see, everything's great. Now you should join me. But it would feel like we wouldn't get the time skips in right. It would feel somewhat
the whole development
rushed.
of the outlaw story, as you say, is the main thing we would lose there. Not to mention the Beleg and Thingol and Melian elements, you know, the whole Beleg's own story. Yeah.
I like there to be time for people to travel back and forth to Doriath in between when they're arriving places.
Right. Exactly.
This is our very last chance to give Beleg's story. So.
Yeah. We might as well spend some time on it. And you're right.
I had always assumed that episode 12 was going to be Beleg's point of view.
Yes.
He dies late enough in the episode that I think we can pull it off.
For sure.
It's potential that it would have to switch to Gwyndor for that last bit, but whatever.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. And just for to pursue our exercise, which at least Alana and I are excited about. Episode 1, I'm trying to think who's the POV if it isn't Turin in each of these episodes. Morwen, episode 1.
1 is Morwen. Yeah.
1 is Morwen. 2 is one of the guides that take, like the person who takes Turin to Dorian. Galadriel.
I mean,
what's she up to? Yeah.
She's in Doriath.
She's in Doriath.
So.
There's not a lot of Turin. I mean, Turin's traveling in episode 2, so it's not a big deal.
Any perspective that we get on it would be, again. But I like just even thinking.
But if Morwen gives the task to these old men,
yes,
I was gonna say, the conversation between Morwen and the guides is probably one that Turin's not there for.
Right.
So making one of the guides the point of view throughout the episode fits.
And I was going to say it fits in with what you had said earlier about the first few episodes being nothing to do with Turin's own agency, right? So having the POV character be one of the grown-ups who is escorting Turin makes sense in that regard also. Okay, so we've got one of the old dudes who is escorting Turin is the POV character in episode 2. Nellis in 3. That's pretty easy. Beleg in 4. In 5. Not Cyros.
Not Cyrus.
Mablung.
That would be amusing.
Mablung in 5.
Are we mostly picking people who are orbiting the Turin story?
Yeah, because there got to be people who are there enough to be able to see it. Now, the problem is Mablung doesn't actually witness the incident.
Right, because if he did, I don't think it would have ended with Cyrus chased through the
But
woods
Nellis
naked and
does.
dying.
Nellis
does
witnesses it.
because she can't do anything about it, though.
Nellis POV. No, that's right, though. Nellis is like silent eyewitness of everything. Yeah. That's it. Nellis is the POV character in episode 5. Done and done. Yeah, she would see everything. She's like there, like peeking through everywhere. Yeah, everything. Yeah, no, love it.
Okay,
love
so she's
it.
at the feast and in the woods.
Totally.
Okay.
Because Turin's home. Her best friend has come home again.
Okay, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, she's going to be everywhere he is. Even when he's doing disturbing things.
Right.
Yeah. Especially when he's doing... Yeah, no, I like it.
Okay.
Love it. Nellis is POV character in 5. It's good. Androg in 6.
Presumably.
Something
yeah.
like that. Beleg in 7. We kind of need Beleg in 7 and 9.
Yeah, because if we're setting out from
Doriath. Yeah, exactly.
then Beleg would be, we're following him to
Yeah.
Turin. If the point of the story is something that's happening with the outlaws and we don't need to follow him, then he just shows up.
Yeah, I think it's Beleg because, especially
Because
the
why
second.
not?
Yeah, because why
Well,
not?
the second time I agree, because he's got to have the sword and the helm.
And
yeah.
and not only that, but also he needs to get tortured and stuff before Turin shows up, right? So
Correct,
his perspective on that
correct.
is crucial.
Yeah. So for sure in 9.
And for sure in 9, it's less mandatory in 7, but I think we could pull
Right.
it away. And I'm fine. Again, I think we don't want Beleg to be our POV character in 2 episodes in a row, but as long as like we
It is
intersperse him with
broken
other,
up. We do keep breaking it up.
we do keep breaking it up because then
So far it's 4,
And
7,
then Androg in
9,
8.
12.
yeah, Androg could be 8
Yeah.
or Meme even, but potentially Meme actually, right? Yeah. Raviolan was just asking about Meme point of view. We could do Meme point of view in 8.
There's certain things that happen when Turin's not around and when the outlaws aren't around, and I think we'll want to show some of that. So
Yeah. But we don't have to be
Meme is
that strict about the POV restriction.
no, but
necessarily.
it helps structure the episode if you
Yeah.
know who you're following.
Right. Right. Yeah. But Meme, if not Meme Androg for 8.
Right.
For 10, actually 10 would be an interesting one. Now I don't want that from Meme's point of view because I want it to be a positive and not just a grumpy thing.
So I think it's going to be Beleg then, because we'll see Meme being grumpy about Beleg when Turin's not like standing right there.
Unless we have unless it's Androg in 10.
Yeah.
We could
Okay,
have one of the
so-
outlaws who is, and it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be even the person filling the Androg role. There could be another one of the outlaws. I would kind of like to make
multiple outlaws characters.
multiple outlaws characters, yes, and have one like. I think it'd be fun to have an outlaw who basically exemplifies the I'm a no good, desperate outlaw who will do anything. I'm stick it not outlaw, right at the beginning, all the way up to like I am noble follower of the Hellman bow, and I have like reformed my life and now believe in higher things and am seeking which Androg doesn't quite get there, right?
But Turin has that effect on somebody?
Totally.
Turin
Well,
makes-
with Beleg's help, yes.
Okay.
Totally. Yeah.
Okay, with Beleg's help.
With Beleg's help.
Because I hesitate to make Turin the source of someone's moral reform.
No, I think it's great.
But-
I think it's great.
okay.
Like that
And
he
it
would
is true.
inspire,
Yes.
But
yes.
but even if he doesn't
and
follow
this
through
person is
himself.
going to die horribly the next episode, so it's fine. Turin's impact on his life is clear to the audience.
yes. Anyway, so if we could so that's what I'm thinking. Like the noble outlaw character can be the POV character for 10, right? So we get like that'll be like his final stage of like, and now I have like found meaning and purpose in my life, and like we're doing good in the world, and like this is awesome, and Turin's the best thing ever, and like Belleg is also pretty cool, and then there's the grumpy dwarf who is increasingly hating everything. Then in 11, Androg and his death, because he can die seeing Turin captured, and he doesn't have to die to see Belleg recover. That's what we start. He can die seeing. He thinks Belleg's dead. Right. And he thinks Belleg is dead, and he thinks that Turin, and he knows that Turin is captured, and that's when he dies. And then in the beginning of episode 12, we discover that Belleg is in fact not dead, and then we follow Belleg through the end. And then Gwyndor in episode 13.
Sure.
Totally doable. We can avoid Turin's POV the whole season. Love it.
Fair.
Love it. Okay. All right, so let's think about Rion's story. Mm-hmm. We've not left too much time for this, so let's see what we can work out here. How far along was she? Did we have any kind of a clear? She was very visibly pregnant, right? She was within a handful of months at least. She was like third trimester.
Right. So the point is that Tuor is older than Nienor.
Right.
So yeah, she was within like third trimester. Say.
Right. So she's third trimester at the end of season 7. So
8.
What I'm
yes. 8 starts with her having a baby.
8 starts with her having a baby. What I'm trying to get at is the birth of Tuor before or after the seizure by the Easterlings? Because I think it could be before. It could be after they hear the news, but before the new overlords set up. Basically.
It can be whenever we need it to be. Like, she could be about to pop at the beginning of the season. That's fine.
Yeah.
Or something important could happen, and then she goes into labor, and we have to deal with that.
Yeah.
Like, it's wherever we need it.
In the text, isn't it that that it's the elves that help her deliver the baby? But I don't think we necessarily need to do that.
Well, there's a question of why she's running out into the woods having a baby, and why the elves find her. Like, we need more of a story than we have.
And given her relationship with Morwen, though, that we've set up, it seems unlikely that Morwen would let that happen.
It seems also unlikely that anyone other than Morwen would foster her baby if there were not some very good reason for that.
It has to be some chaotic event that leads to all these things playing out the way they do. The invasion of the Easterlings
and the invasion happen at the same time.
Right. Is a chaotic event. And the other, I mean, there's multiple issues in her story that we have to show a reason for. We don't have to justify her choices, but we need to show why it's happening the way it does. And one suggestion that was made last season was that it's possible that when she gives birth, her milk never comes in. So she can't even feed her baby, and that is part of her source of despair, is that she had one job,
right?
To have this baby.
She has one job left, right? Yes, exactly.
Right,
yeah.
And she can't even do that, and that's what she's done at that point, and has no choices left but despair.
Yeah.
So, or things that look like despair. So I don't know if that's going to be relevant to the circumstances under which she gives birth, or how she ends up in the woods with some elves. But
how far? I mean, like geographically, how far away are Anil's people from Dorloman?
Oh, we put them in the mountains at the edge of Dorloman for a reason.
So if the Easterlings, if the invasion of the Easterlings is going on with this already traumatized people made up of old men, women and children, then the fact that Rian ends up separated or, you know, isolated in some way, with or without having already delivered of her baby, and Anile and meets Anile, then that could work.
So for like on purely dramatic basis, the prospect of enormously pregnant Rian fleeing from the invading enemies out into the forest, going into labor while fleeing for her life, and being taken in and her baby delivered by the elves, that's kind of a nice story. And we'd have to contrive a way to separate her from Morwen still. But that can be contrived in the invasion somehow.
Well, Morwen's busy being leader. I mean, she's trying to hold it together.
Right.
Yes.
It doesn't make sense that Rian would be anywhere other than at home.
Yes.
And the part where she's alone, supposedly, if you know how this plays out, means something has gone wrong because someone should have been with her.
I would imagine somebody is with her and they flee into the woods because the house is being sacked or something at that point.
And she tries to go with them, and
and then she gets separated, or
Exactly.
her companions all get killed or whatever.
Pregnancy and labor is also an easy mechanism to separate her from everybody else running away as well.
Yes.
And therefore have her taken in by the elves when others are not, right? And therefore, yeah.
Because that's the thing, is who would be with her if not Morwen? And I mean, yeah, it could be people that get killed in the scene. Like, that's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, Morwen's going to be conflicted, but she's got to stay with, like, she's got to.
She has a job to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. Right. But it's better still.
Turin and
I don't want, I mean, I wouldn't want to put, and of course, Morwen is also pregnant, less pregnant than Rian, but she's also pregnant. I wouldn't want to put Morwen necessarily into this situation where she's like, I have to choose between, you know, my sort of sister Rian and my job or my people, and her choose her job and people over Rian. Like, we wouldn't want her to abandon Rian.
No,
think.
So we
that's
can
why I
make
feel it should be
events
more.
happen.
Yeah, it's more chaos, and
Yeah.
Rian was supposed to be with people who were gonna take care of her and help her out,
Yes.
and then something went wrong.
Right.
The other thing is that Rian has lived through a lot of really traumatic events up to this point.
Mm-hmm.
So her response to living through another traumatic event would probably be bringing back a lot of that earlier trauma. Like, you don't necessarily do a better job when you're fleeing your land that's getting invaded by orcs for the third time. You know, like.
Right. That's not something necessarily that accumulated experience makes you more skilled at coping with necessarily. Yes. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, she fled Dorthonion when she was like, what, 5?
Mm-hmm.
And then she met Karkaroth, which was not fun. And yeah, so like, she's lived through a few things, and now her husband and all their people were just killed in a battle, and she just got news of that. I can't imagine the Easterlings are that far behind the messenger who said they all fell in battle.
Could we actually have Rian go crazy? Could we ever just lose it? I mean, that would be a strong decision, but
I am not opposed to showing her reaching a breaking point.
Yeah, her just
because she's never been portrayed as somebody who was like, I'm going to get through all these most difficult tasks because that's what we do. She's been
Morwen's the woman of steel. Rian is not the woman of steel.
Rian's been coaxed into the, it's okay, we're going to do this together. Come with me on this.
Yes. And now she's alone, and her husband's dead, and everybody's gone, and disaster again, and now
we can do it. We can like do an accurate PTSD kind of response.
Well, like, I mean, it's not that hard to imagine a complete psychotic break of some kind when you combine like the third PTSD incident in her young life with postpartum. And I mean, my goodness, right? I mean, like,
Well, that's the thing is I think we need her to break after she has the baby.
yeah,
So I don't think we want her to go crazy before the
No.
birth of Tuor.
no, I agree. Post.
But after Tuor has been delivered and handed to an elf,
Yes.
then I
And
think.
And if we keep she doesn't have milk.
I was gonna say, I feel like that's the last.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just can't anymore.
Massive PTSD combined with postpartum psychosis basically is
Yeah.
what is leading to her complete despair and even like dissociation, right? I mean,
I
Well,
was
that's
gonna
how
say,
she ends up going and laying herself down on the mound, kind of thing.
well, the nice thing, that's the wrong word, about this is that we can portray her going out to the Mound of the Dead where her experience of reality is not
That's
matching
just what I
what's
was
in front of
thinking.
her. So her reasons for being there,
she believes
and
she's
who's-
actually reuniting with Tuor.
yeah. So
Yeah.
she can be talking to him and be like, I've been looking for you, and like that kind of thing. And you know, we can put his ghost on the battlefield if we need to. And is that her seeing a ghost that's not really there, or is that ghost really there? We've shown ghosts on battlefields before.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
there would be the opportunity to portray her death with something other than just judging her so harshly for being a bad mom
Being a bad mom and even just
and doing something stupid.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Like, I don't want the end of her story to be, well, that was dumb.
Even just because it even tempts judgment a little bit, even just to say, and she despaired and gave up, which is
So
another
do we-
way to view her story potentially,
So this is I'm just trying to think of everything we have to put into episode 1. We do. I mean, if the end of episode 1 is Morwen deciding to send Turin off, then Rian does have to die in episode 1.
What if the opening scene of episode 1, at least the Dorloman opening scene, is like night attack by the Easterlings, fire, chaos, Rian heavily pregnant, in fact, possibly even contracting, Rian running off into the night, certainly inducing labor from the trauma.
She wasn't in
of
labor
she wasn't in
before.
labor before, she is now, right?
Oh boy,
And
poor Rian.
yeah, but then being discovered while she is like lying in labor and struggling, and being pursued, and Anile comes across her and rescues her. Like that thing could be almost the opening sequence, even before we go to Morwen, right? So then we would show Morwen having lost Rian and trying to put things together, and she'd be mourning Rian, like, now I've lost Rian and Rian's baby as well, and now I've got, but she's still pregnant and she's trying to, and so we bring her in and introduce Iron's character as
Absolutely, and then we have the Iron Brada storyline.
We could delay, if we wanted to, Rian's death into episode 2, just because there could be some time in which she's fostered by the elves, but it's the not being able to feed her baby, which kind of takes place over time. Like that.
I do feel it's the end of episode 1 though, because if episode 1 is the story of Dorloman and the humans, and in episode 2 we're going to the broader Beleriand and the elves, that's not Rian's story.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
So I agree that we're trying to make a lot happen in episode 1, and something might get pushed back to 2.
Yeah.
With Morwen, she'll still be there in episode 2. So where her story ends in episode 1 probably depends on what arc we manage to get with her.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's how much we get into this. I don't know.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Agreed.
Well,
Okay. So I'm not. Yeah.
All right. That's Rian.
I'm trying to resist going full bore. Let's do the episode planning for episode 1 thing right now.
No.
But I think if we can accomplish that, if we can get her, if we can separate her, have her go into labor, get rescued, and then delivered of the baby, we could even postpone her death to episode 2, because it's happening separate from everybody else.
That was
Yes,
Marie's
it's
point
just that
about the.
How would it connect to anything in episode 2?
Well, it could connect thematically in episode 2.
She does leave Dorloman, so part of the outside Dorloman thing could fit. That could work. I guess I tie her story most closely to Hurin's story.
Yeah.
And Hurin is meeting
okay.
Morgoth at the beginning of the episode, getting cursed by Morgoth by the end of the episode. I feel like Rian should have her baby at the beginning of the episode, be dying or seeking out the mound at the end of the episode. Like, I kind of feel like those stories match.
All we'd have to do is get, like, have the baby, very beginning of the episode, be struggling with, like, establish, like, her struggles with the baby and her psychosis and problems.
Oh, no. So,
and then send her off to the Hill of Slain at the end of the episode.
If you have a scene where the entire time we're with Rian, the baby never stops crying, like, that scene does not need to be very long for every viewer to be like, this is the worst thing that has ever happened.
Yes.
And crying because he's hungry.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
What I'm saying is, like, she can't feed him. Like, if you've had a screaming baby that you are trying to make better, and everything you do, the baby keeps screaming, that's awful.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm not a mom, so, like, I've never had to deal with
well,
it from
I'm not either,
view.
but I can tell you as a dad of infants, that is a very helpless feeling. That is a horrible feeling.
And I've only experienced it as the kid's sister or aunt or, whatever, someone in the household, but not.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's
not the person actually responsible.
Yeah.
For the baby.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, but yes, as long as we could do it. But okay, so either we accomplish that in episode 1 or we spill it over somehow into episode 2. We can figure that out once we plan all the other things for the episode and see how we can do that. But I think that's a perfectly fair way to get him into elf hands and get Rian to the Hill of Slain. Now,
in episode 1 or 2, depending on where it fits.
Yeah, exactly.
And I like that if he's being nurtured, like, actually with food by the elves right from his birth, that kind of adds to the elfiness about him. That's why
he's Tuor's kid, right? Yeah, exactly.
Part of the reason that Tolkien has him born and handed off to elves immediately is so that he's never raised in a human society.
Yes.
And even when he is recaptured and put into Dorloman, it's as a slave and it's not part of the culture. Like, he is never part of any human society.
But I like that it's even like his
From
very
birth.
early nourishment.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's great.
Yeah,
he takes in elvishness with a mother's milk, as it were, right?
So,
would we actually give him an elvish wet nurse?
So
I can't imagine there's a wet nurse.
And it'd be pretty convenient,
Valerian
right? But yeah.
They're not having kids. The
Right.
elves are not having kids.
Yeah.
not usually, although it was a time of peace.
It had been a time of peace.
Yeah. Now, granted, all the elves in Mithram have been prepared for war since the last war 17 years ago. So, I don't think there'd be an elven wet nurse available. There could be another human wet nurse, but
that they could arrange for or something.
But that takes the step back.
Yeah, I know. I like the nourished by elves thing.
The problem is it's really hard to feed a newborn baby
without milk
from other animals.
Yes.
Well,
yes, it is.
You could. I think you can use certain animals' milk.
It's not impossible. It's not impossible.
Not cows,
the elves will work it out.
Right.
Elves can work it out. Elves can work it out. I'm confident in the elves.
Gotcha.
Right. Cyclops says elves can have limbus milk.
Yeah, essentially, this is going to be, this is what we feed babies.
Exactly.
Magic. It works. How does it work? Very well.
Raphael says they nurture them on Miravor alone.
Well, the baby will stop crying.
That's right. I'll solve that problem, I can tell you.
Oh my.
Anyway,
So,
we can sort that.
/magic/ they just know what babies need and
/
they give
wisdom.
the baby
Yes.
the baby gets what it needs and somehow survives.
Absolutely. Oh, and I wanted to bring up a comment that was made earlier on. We do need to be, if we're going to have Rian have a psychotic break, we need to make sure we're prepared to either closely to just like Neonor's going to go crazy too. So we need to make sure that we have, we don't just kind of confuse things. So
Right. Because this one's not induced by a dragon.
Correct. Right. Yeah. So there's no dragon involved. It's just, we wouldn't, well, we either.
Well, she doesn't have to like run ripping her clothes off.
Well, no,
I mean,
no,
be a different
no.
kind of
Yeah.
thing.
I think that Rian having a psychotic break and becoming delusional is what I'm thinking. Because I love the idea of like her ending believing that she is I mean, I'm imagining this horrible tear-jerking scene of her believing that she's meeting Tuor and presenting their baby to him. And, when she lies down to die, she's like, she believes that like she's lying down and, Tuor's holding her and they're snuggling their baby and she dies alone, like in reality. Like that would be horrible and sad. But anyway.
But
like,
in a way that we would have sympathy for her plight.
Totally.
And that's what I want out of her story, is that what happens to her is terribly tragic.
Yes.
And she was never cut out for this.
Right.
And
this is just too much for her. It's too much for her. Yeah.
She is a victim of this war as much as all the people in that Hill of the Slain.
Absolutely.
And
yeah. And David Michael also points out it could be opposite from Neonor's madness in that so Neonor loses the power of speech and Rian is talking to people who aren't there, right? So it's very different in that way. It would feel very different in that way. Yeah. Yep. Okay. All right. I like this. I think this works. I think this works for Rian's story. There's some details we still need to work out, but this gives baby Tuor to Anile. This has her dead on the Hill of Slain without submarining her character completely. And I like it. Okay, so the Greater Dorloman story. Oof. Okay, there's a lot that we don't have time to talk about here. Let's stick with Tuor for a second. Now, Lorgan and Broda, how geographically separate are they?
My understanding is that the Easterlings who come in kind of divvy up Dorloman,
split it into two halves.
And and they just each one has their own little fiefdom going on,
right?
Or warlord status or whatever.
Yeah.
Like it's very disjointed. Each man for his own, I would think, because like what is their point to stay organized and structured like they were?
Right.
They don't have Ulfang to keep
They don't
them
have Ulfang to
together
make it
anyway.
happen.
Yeah.
But they also don't even have a goal or a purpose. It's not like we're a military, so we're structured and organized, and we're going to keep that organization here in our new land.
Yes.
I mean,
For why?
one of the consequences of the story that we told in season 7 about the Easterlings is that these are the loyal soldiers of the king above kings back in Sudburidon.
Yes.
And now they're being sort of shoehorned into Dorloman by Morgoth, essentially. This is not their decision. And they're going to make the best of it. And it's not that long since they've left their homelands. And so on. So there's still that kind of connection. It's not like they've been living in Beleriand and they'd already established themselves as separate from Sudburidon. So
right.
I'm not saying we need to tell a big story about that, but
no.
I can imagine that Lorgan and Broda are going to stop agreeing with each other pretty quickly and agree to set up separately.
I expect it to splinter and just
Are we going to show, because we could show two different perspectives, right? One of them could become, Morgoth's true disciple, while the other one is like bitter and resentful and wishing he could go home.
Well, I think Broda's the bitter and resentful one based on the character that we gave him in the last season, and Lorgan was actually all in with Uldor.
Right. He's the one
he sees
himself as faithful servant.
he was quite happy to like
Yeah.
Uldor wanted the land, right?
Right.
And Lorgan was kind of in that like, yeah, let's set up here.
Yeah.
Whereas Brodder's like, no, I want to I want to go home.
Right.
like,
Right. I love this.
so-
And this sets us up to have Brodda be not a sympathetic character, but a tragic character in some ways. And even to some limited extent, a sympathetic character. I mean, he still is going to do
we
bad
have
things to people, but
we have to be a little careful, because if he really wanted to go back home, why doesn't he?
well,
Like,
with
why
Morgoth.
does he go to Dorlum?
Morgoth
I know
could
because
prevent it.
Morgoth. Yes. So the question
Morgoth
is
is
how
like-
much
yeah.
how much did the Easterlings invade Dorloman because there were Balrogs behind them?
Right.
And how much did the Easterlings invade Dorloman because they wanted Dorloman? And we don't want to go too strong in either direction, I don't
Right.
think.
I
So there's some level of coercion.
Yeah.
But they didn't want Dorloman. They wanted
No,
East
they wanted
Valyrians.
East Valyrian. Well, they're not getting
Yeah.
East Valyrians, but
Yeah.
Right.
so there.
Yeah.
So, but is it just we wanted East Valyrian? We'll have to settle for Dorloman, or is it I wanted to go home to Sooth Baradine? I guess I'll have to settle for Dorloman. Like, those are different settling levels.
Right.
And if you wanted East Valyrian and with Dorloman, it's like, okay, well, whatever. Let's.
I'll make the
okay,
best
here we
of
are.
this
Yeah, but if you really wanted to
subpar
go home,
situation. Yeah.
do you just spend the next 8 years talking about how much you want to go home? Like,
I think Brodder's actually not a bad leader, and he's
No,
got
he's-
his
yeah.
own people. He's got to be leading the remnant of his army,
Yeah.
and so maybe he may want to go home on a personal level, but this is not going to happen easily.
Right.
So that's
Brodda might be
he'll
able
be
to
pragmatic.
contrive to set out on his own with a small group of people and make it back to Sooth Baradine. Like, I doubt that Morgoth is like guarding the borders to prevent them leaving. However,
yeah,
if Brodda's a good leader, he's not going to want to abandon his men, right?
right.
So what he would be looking for would be the opportunity to lead his men either back to East Valyrian or ideally back to Sooth Baradine. But he can't find. He knows he's not going to be able to march his army across because Morgoth was like, "I want you guys here," because Morgoth has plans for them against their will. Like they are pushed into Dorloman and kept there again, not by armed guard. But there's no way he could just march his men all the way back across Beleriand. So he's trapped.
not without incurring further
Morgoth's wrath, right? Exactly. They would
Yeah.
definitely catch him and crush his army, his little half the remnant of the Easterling army before it got there. So if going home for him only would mean leading his men back home, he can't do that. So the best thing he can do.
So that's
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. It just I didn't want to go too strongly into the I am pining for
right.
the
I'm
old
pining
land.
for Bree, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because
Right.
that doesn't quite match what he's going to end up doing.
Right.
But
No,
No,
exactly.
little
it's,
bit
it
of
was
that.
more that his motivation is not to set up his own fiefdom, which
Sure.
is Lorgan's quite motivated to do that.
Right.
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 Yeah.
But even
Which
even
explains
there,
why Aaron and Tuor are going to have different experiences with these guys.
Yeah.
and it would also explain why Brodda is going to be so adamant about his leadership of his people and building his is not because he's trying to establish because he's particularly motivated to rule his own kingdom, but because if he doesn't, Lorgan is going to conquer Lorgan
Yeah.
is into it, right?
Yeah.
And he's going to want to fight off Lorgan and remain
And
independent and
his-
preserve his men.
And the agreement that he has with Aaron in enabling her to have some, like, he's not that interested in the remnant people of Dorloman,
Right.
but he kind of recognizes politically it's probably a good idea to have somebody who's in his household,
Yeah.
like a wife,
Yeah.
who can help manage things so that it doesn't, because he's not a moustache twirling villain
No,
in the way
he's
that
not.
Morgan,
And
Morgan
But
is.
yeah.
The Easterlings are an army made up of men, and
Men, yeah.
the people of Dorloman is a people made up of women.
yes.
women.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
like, there's some children and old men around, and I don't know if there were any retainers in the army who were anything other than fighting men, but
Right.
the vast majority of both populations marriages
Yeah,
are going to be
they're complementary.
Right,
part of the
exactly.
story.
And Brada has
Yeah.
to see that if he cannot lead his men back to Sooth Beredin after the battle, when he is pushed into Dorloman and told to stay there, his only hope is to wait. And the only way to wait is to establish a people, right? You know, he's not going to be like, it is my kingdom and I am the Lord now, but he's going to be he is a good enough leader to say, and yes, and now we have to settle down. Like, we have no choice. We have to settle down. We're going to get married. We're going to, yeah.
So is he going to make himself the steward of the King above kings in 3?
I love it. I love it. Yeah,
Yeah,
he'll
he's
set up
still
a big
he's
throne
still
and then a little
loyal to-
chair at the, next to it that he'll sit in. That's fun. That's fun.
But I can imagine him still feeling like what he is doing is being loyal to his king, whereas
Well, that's the thing.
in his
If
heart, yeah,
Right. If he's
You
like, I am a loyal subject of this other king and I am ruling this people, which means this people is subject to that king I can't talk
Yeah.
to right now.
Right.
But someday.
Yeah. So the best he can
this
do.
is an empire. The Bree Empire is an empire, so
Right.
there are rulers. People are ruling their own fiefdoms. I think we set that up.
Yeah.
And
the best he can. So the best he can do is to create a little Sooth Beredin in exile, right? Which is still loyal to the king, hoping someday to be able to somehow reconnect with the empire. But since he can't actually physically return, yes, I'm going to make a colony removed.
Colony.
Right.
Yeah.
We will be a Sooth Beredin colony over here.
And that is not Lorgan's perspective.
That is not Lorgan's perspective. Yes.
Right. Because of the distance and because the whole point of going into Beleriand was to find new lands. He's not that worried about the fact he can't talk
Yes.
to
yes.
home base anymore.
Yes. And I agree with David Michael that no matter how sympathetic we want to make Brada, it is very likely that his perspective is going to be, and being a good leader of my men, I want to reward them with women. And there are lots of women here, right? I mean, like, that is going to be a thing, surely.
I mean, it's a victor spoil situation. They are the conquering army, and
totally.
That's how Sooth Beredin got to be the size it is.
Exactly. That's
not
it would
gonna
not be an abnormal colony establishment technique
He doesn't have a lot of qualms about this.
Not at all. Not at all.
No.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yep. Yeah. I like that. He would have. It's funny. In one sense, his ideas are more grandiose than Lorgan's, and in some sense less. But in any case, I think that's fun. I want to stay focused on Tuor for a minute. We can come back next time, finishing Tuor's story and thinking more about Morwen and Nienor and filling in the rest of that a little bit. Maybe we should, but all we have to do is physically get him into Lorgan's territory in order for him to be captured and enslaved. So that's not going to be hard.
He can be on a hunting trip and get
or
caught
something.
up.
Yeah.
The pieces of Tuor's story are clear.
Yes.
The whole birth situation, fostered by Anile.
Yeah.
Oops, slave of Lorgan. Yay, escape. Like that's Tuor's story this season. The question is, what's the actual story there? Like, who is Tuor and what is he doing? Like, we know where he is for chunks of time, but like, what's happening? So we can tell the bigger Dorloman story next session.
Next time we'll
work out
and let's work. So because I think that Ilana, you were on to the core of Tuor's story, right? He's the elf man, right? He's the mortal who grows up, who knows nothing but elvish customs and elvish ways of looking at the world, right? This, by the way, leads beautifully into Tuor's lingering places, right? His unspeedy journey to Nevrest and stuff. Because unlike
to Gondolin in our version,
and to Gondolin, right? Take your time, Tuor. You got plenty of time, right? Because he, unlike his uncle and his dad, right? He doesn't have that mortal sense of urgency. He was raised with an elvish point of view, right? So he's like,
call Amile father.
Yeah. Oh, I should head to Nevrest, but oh wait, isn't it nice here? And oh look, the sea. I think I'll stay here for a while and contemplate the sea. And yeah,
it's totally why he does that.
Yeah, it fits perfectly. So, I think that's the heart of the Tuor story. Like to put it in the terms that Nick was asking, if we say like what question is Tuor's developmental, his developmental arc answering in this season, it is, what does a mortal raised by elves look like? Like, what is a mortal?
And we've got the contrast
point
with
of view.
Turin, who spent his early childhood in Dorloman with humans.
Yes.
So his adolescence is with the elves, but not his early childhood.
Yes.
And that's the difference.
Yeah, exactly. So we can directly parallel Tuor raised by elves and Turin and Nellis, right? Tuor growing up among elves and demonstrate the massive differences in their points of view and how Turin is actively rejecting that and Tuor is totally taking it for granted.
Which completely parallels Tuor and Hurin when they were in Gondolin.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah, Turin is about 8 years older than Tuor. So if Turin is supposed to be a 12-year-old during the Nellis story, or then Tuor is a little 4-year-old.
Right.
So we would definitely see him as a small child, not as I'm almost grown.
Yeah, no, the direct parallel. Yeah, well, he's a slave, so it would change things. But if he were getting enslaved when he's like 11-ish, then we'd have the elf boy being an adolescent among humans while the human boy was being an adolescent among elves.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we're probably going to have him picked up by Lurgan when he's like 13 or so because of we don't want to get too far into Turin's story before that happens.
Yeah.
In Tolkien's version, he's 16. But if we do it like 3 years earlier, we can do it more the middle of the season instead of the end of the season.
I think pushing it. I see no problem with pushing it a little bit earlier for him.
We can do some fun stuff with like his first encounter with human society.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
And
as I say, it's not quite as
his recognition.
Yeah.
He's got to know he's human.
Yeah.
This is the first time he has an opportunity to find out what that actually means.
Well, so many of the stories are a human encounters fairy for the first time and is like, wow, this is so crazy. And this is him leaving fairy going, what's this nonsense? And it's human culture.
Yeah. We've got, and in this way, we're doing the reversal of the traditional fairy tale human encounters fairy story twice. We're doing two reversals of that. We're doing the Tuor reversal, and we're doing the Nellis reversal. Right, the elf spies upon human instead of instead of human spying upon elf. So yeah, that's delightful. That's really fun. As I say, him being a slave is going to make it a little bit harder, but at least he'll be in a position to observe. The other thing, actually, I kind of like. I prefer the idea of depicting the slave labor to which he would be put as like a 12-year-old than the slave labor he would be put as a fully grown like 16, 17-year-old. That is, like, if he's like brought in and made like a kitchen servant or something like that, right? Which is a thing you might put an 11 or 12-year-old kid to doing if you had an 11 or 12-year-old slave, right? That puts him like, basically he as a slave, as a younger child, he would be in a position where he'd still be doing menial labor, but it would be menial labor from which he could observe things going on around him.
And this is for the first time where he's going to learn from the others, like say he's in the kitchen with the other kitchen people. What happened?
Yeah.
He
has no idea.
Doesn't know. He might know some things from what Arnaud's told him, but like that he'll get the perspective of what happened and
Yes.
and what it was like in Dorloman before the Easterlings came, before
Yes.
the war and so
Yes.
on, in
Right.
a new way.
Yeah,
in that
because
film.
again, I'm thinking like the work that he would be put to as a full grown, functionally a full grown adult male, like physically adult male, when he was like 16 or 17, would probably be more brutal, to be more isolated. Like it would be. I feel like it's an easier and more appealing story to tell if he's like, a spit turner in the kitchen compared to, work in the fields or doing some other kind of like brutal physical
Hard
hauling
labor.
labor. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Doing hard labor.
And also then if the older people, they don't know who he is.
Right. Right.
Right. He's come into, he's been recently captured.
Yes.
And he doesn't seem to know about Dorloman, so he could have come from anywhere.
Yeah.
He sure looks like someone from Dorloman.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't even think of that. David Michael is reminding me that Tuor as kitchen slave is like a callback to
Baron.
Baron. Yeah,
Baron.
exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah,
In
yeah.
the Book of Lost
Tevildo.
Tales, in Tevildo's
Yeah.
kitchen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's fun.
All right, let's make that
I was not
happen.
thinking of that, but yes, yeah. There you go. I think we have confirmation there. Okay. Well, we'll work out but again, I feel like we have the clear sort of seed of the clear concept of the Tuor story here, and we can work out some of the details as we work out more of the fuller Dorloman story next time. Very good. Okay, so we got a bunch of things. We'll come back to that. So for next time, we'll continue thinking about Morrowind and Iron in particular, but we'll think more about having those concepts of Lorgan's fiefdom and Broda's fiefdom. We'll flesh those out a little bit more. Think about living conditions and how they change over time. We need to think about Nienor and Nienor's childhood and what her childhood is like, and more as will be part of Morrowind's progression, of course. So we'll focus on those things, and of course we also always, when we're doing that, need to be thinking about setting up for what will happen when Turin returns, and then what will happen when Hurin returns. Like all of those things, we need to be preparing for in laying out the whole Dorloman story. Anyway, okay, so next time, I can confirm that our next session will be on Thursday, January 29th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm saying confirm this because when we began broadcasting, I was not sure, but now I am. We're on for the 29th. So that'll be good, though I will have to end promptly, as I did not do today. But yeah, so we will continue with the spelling out all of the human plot lines here in this season. We might, if we get a chance, we might perhaps go and talk about the outlaws more, the outlaws and the woodmen, and kind of fit that into the picture as well, the post-Near-Knife picture. But we'll see. Maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves there a little bit. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thanks, folks, for all of your help and contributions. And I will say, as always, thanks for listening and Godspeed.